All right, as usual, I'm exhausted. I just got home from my corporate job and I had a lot to think about today because I started out the morning wondering whether or not the hired hitman that did the thing last week was actually ever going to get caught. I thought about him as being a DB Cooper sort of figure that would live on in American culture for as many years, for 10, 20, 30 years, that he would become ingrained. But no, I was talking to the school president today as he was getting ready to leave, and he said it was plain and simple. Someone hired him to do a job, he did the job, and then he got caught. But there were other powers that be at play that had to do with something that was supposed to be kept secret. And I, this news is so big, my computer's telling me about it right now. And they're calling him a person of interest. Remember, in America, you're never a person, you're never guilty until proven innocent. You're always innocent till proven guilty, which is very different from other countries in the world. If you go right across the southern border, you will enter a country where you are guilty till proven innocent, which sometimes means that the law doesn't exactly work in your favor. But there was something that kept getting repeated today that hit my ear in a certain way that bothered me. And it was what I put into ChatGPT today, and it came back with it didn't understand this, right? So what I kept hearing was it indicated his ill will towards corporate entities. ChatGPT didn't understand what this meant. Ill will, disdain, resentment, a a disdain for the system. It made clear how much he disliked corporate entities. And it goes on and on like this down the page. So I asked it to create a script, and then I took that script, I made a title for that script, From Struggle to Resentment, and then I asked it to recreate the script. And this is what it gave me. Corporate power. It sounds big, doesn't it? Something far away, locked up in a boardroom with men in suits. But let me tell you something. It's not far away. It's here, right in my kitchen, in my empty fridge, and every sleepless night I've spent wondering how to keep the lights on. This is the entity that this man didn't like. If his manifesto turns out to be what it is, the other day when I did my video on the need a reckoning video, it it's ChatGPT referred to it as a manifesto. I didn't. I just thought there were things that need to be said. Sometimes there's that one crazy guy out there yelling about how bad things are. Nobody wants to listen to him. And I want to be that crazy voice out on the internet saying, you know what? It doesn't have to be like this. Because we allow it to be like this, it's like this. And when I heard that dislike for corporate entities, I heard another person like myself. You look at the system, you look at what you're getting out of it, and then you again scratch your head and think, why is no one else saying this? Why is everyone complacent with accepting the fact that they want us to live for food and shelter? That's what really bothered me. The fact that everyone doesn't like corporate entities. Yet, guess what? That's where we work because those are the places that hire people by the millions. Places that expect for you to shut up, do your work, and follow the corporate rules. In fact, today I was talking to the receptionist and she said that someone came up to her and had to explain to her. And this isn't her boss. This is another employee who came up and said, your necklace is not compliant with the company dress code. And she just looked at me like, Millennial Steve, why would someone say that to me? And I thought, you know what? Because the corporation trains people to do things like this. When I worked at Walmart, you were to inform your fellow employees upon seeing them not smiling. as if it were incorrect behavior that needed to be corrected. This is the way that corporations treat all of us. You're supposed to keep your head down. You're not supposed to talk about unions or uprisings or anything. The last thing they want you talking about is how much money you make or that promotion that they gave you that they don't want you talking about. In fact, today I had a very offensive conversation with my management about how you're allowed to use sick time. And I was deeply offended by this because it showed the disdain for the corporation. You only get so much sick time per year. And I used it as vacation time because we only have 20 days left of the year. And I was told to my face today that if you're not sick, you should waste that sick time. You should not use it unless you absolutely need to. And I thought to myself, wait a minute, is this guy for real? Or is this a cartoon villain? That's what you say. This is why people dislike corporate entities, because this is the kind of crap that they're willing to tell you. Oh, you can't use that time, so you have to let it go to waste. Just like your vacation time. They don't want you, if you don't use your vacation, you lose it. But if you don't have time to use your vacation or your sick leave, you lose it. And they don't care because they don't have to pay you. That's what we hate about corporations. That thought process that you should get as little as humanly possible, as few resources as possible as a worker. Your mental health goes to crap. Your finances go to crap. Your relationships go to crap. Your mental health goes to crap. Everything being caused by the corporations and their horrible policies towards humankind. But guess what? Try working for a non-corporation. Try finding a job that's not a corporation. Because the mom and pop jobs, well, they're not keeping the doors open. We know that restaurants are going into the toilet faster than they can try to figure out what's going on. And that leaves many of us, that leaves millions of people wondering, so here's the question. Why do people dislike corporate entities? Because we're supposed to not like them. The natural behavior between corporation and employee is a hateful one. They don't like us. And I'm not telling you this because I'm anti-corporation. I'm telling you this because this is the way you treat something you don't like. You don't feed it enough, you don't give it benefits, and you're not concerned when it doesn't have a place to live. That to me is the purest form of dislike for something that you can show. The employees also have no loyalty to you. When it comes down to what you're willing to do, and I saw this today in one of my coworkers, because I wanted to put my time in and I had let the last senior manager just signed off on everyone's time off. But now that the senior manager isn't my boss, the top of our department, he looks at all of these requests like looking at a bug through a microscope, and it's like, well, this isn't legitimate. You can't do this. We want you to waste your time. And you're just like, you are a piece of absolute garbage. And that's what the executives are towards every single person in America. We don't care. At the end of the day, the bonuses go to the executives. They don't go to Johnny Sixpack working the fryer at Jack in the Box. They don't care about that guy. They don't care about the single mom that's working 2.5 jobs while she's going to school. You don't matter. If you're not part of their class, you don't matter, and you should know your place. That's why they issued that statement that all employees need to show 100% loyalty. Well, I'll tell you this much. It was Monday morning at 9 o'clock at Kroger's, and about half the younger staff didn't show up to work today. And you know why that is? Because they're not paid anything, they don't care about their jobs, and corporations absolutely despise their employees for coming to work with the attitude of, I don't want to be here. But if you were to go and ask a person in private how they feel about corporate entities, not one single worker would tell you that they like working at any job. And that's the attitude that I got today from my coworker, because my coworker was also putting in his time, because I asked him, because he asked me first. It's like, are you allowed just to put in your sick time and just use it whenever you want? And I said, they've been signing off on it for years. And so I was under the impression that that was okay. Well, guess what? I was wrong. And when it comes to a corporation, the little guy's always wrong. And so that brought up these deep seated feelings of why people don't like their employers. In fact, I was reading an article where corporate America is so fed up with the attitude of the proletariat, they want to start fining you for not showing up to work on a Monday morning. They want you to know that it's your responsibility to show up to work every single day. They don't want to hear about you needing time off. They don't want to hear about a life work balance. They don't want to hear any of that. And as I was telling one of my coworkers today, if it were up to the corporation, you would work a 7-day work week at 12 hours a day. Want work life balance? How's that? Because when it comes to corporate profits and the way that they see people, people are batteries. People are nothing. People are absolute garbage. The garbage that allows them to rake in billions of dollars per year while they hand out $25,000 in hourly pay. $25,000 is what they'd like to see people getting paid. And then they wonder why their employees look the way that they do, all wretchedly poor. But guess what? You don't matter. All right, so let's get back to the story really quick, because I am going to run out of time, and I had two other things that I'm going to get out of the way before I decide to continue. So I was also very fascinated by the suspect's background. Ivy League education, graduate student, and his, what else would I call this? His attitude. Usually, when you are an Ivy League person, you come to understand that the system is going to work better for you than it would be for Johnny Sixpack who went to community college. But then that made me start thinking about this, that aristocratic mane that that person mentioned this weekend. It's really bothering me because I put this into ChatGPT and it brought back the characteristics of that person. Physical appearance, upright posture, graceful movements, and a polished or poised look. Behavior, polite, composed, and often reserved with a sense of formality. Speech, elegant and measured tone, often giving the impression of education and sophistication. Attitude, a sense of entitlement, self assurance, or detachment that comes from a perceived elevated social status. I don't know where to even begin with that, because I was talking to the receptionist today in the lobby at the end of the day, and she's like, Millennial Steam, you're a gigolo. And I was like, what? She's like, all the women that you flirt with every single day. Because I was telling her about how I met this girl today at the Chick-fil-A, and we were standing out there talking for like 10 minutes, even though she was just taking the orders. And it was very apparent that we were enjoying each other's company because she's from Peru and she had a very distinct accent. When Spanish is your first language, you can detect accents. I also have a background in linguistics. So I listen to people and the way that they present their speech. And you can hear that this person isn't a regular Spanish speaker. There was elegance in the accent that you very rarely see in people with low education in your normal restaurant environments. So the second I heard it, again, sometimes things hit my ear and they make me curious. I become fascinated by these things. And I would have to say that the one of the the times where it got the best of me, I was working at Walmart and we had a girl who came in. She was a track team person for the university. And the first time that I met her, listening to her accent, which was a combination of German, French, and British English, it was like it was like ear candy. The accent was amazing, and I became quickly aware of it. And I was like, "Where are you from?" And she's like, "Well, my dad on one side is German, my mother on the other side is French, but I grew up in London." And I was like, "That is a lot of going between languages on a daily basis." So you talk to one parent in one language, the other parent another, and your day to day conversation is held in British English. You can only imagine what that sounds like. It's absolutely heavenly. Anyhow, to be called that by the receptionist, I was just like, again, I'm just an ordinary prole man out here on YouTube. For someone to say that to me, again, it bothered me. Anyhow, back on task. Let's get through this script really quick. I didn't always feel this way. I used to believe if I worked hard enough, if I just kept my head down, I'd get ahead. That's what they tell you, isn't it? Work hard and the system will reward you. But after years of struggle, I started to see the cracks in that story. Why is it always that the proletariat has to work harder? What is it about the lowest form of labor in the world, the proletariat, about working hard? Could be that there is a certain entity in our society that benefits directly from telling you to work harder. The same way that these entities will tell you, buy more lottery tickets. You're the next Powerball winner. That's exactly the same mentality. Keep playing, proles, because when you stop buying lottery tickets or you start participating in the corporate entities, they win. And they know that they win as long as they keep you trapped there long enough to keep telling you that it's your fault. You need to grind harder in order to get ahead because that's what they are. They're a joke. They're a lottery system that's there with no winners. The vast majority of people who play the lottery will never win, just like every member of the proletariat will never win because it's a job that's designed to keep you coming back for for a standard of living that isn't even worth being alive for. Moving on to talking point number 3, or story point number 3 at this point. Corporate power isn't just about money or success, it's about control. They control your paycheck, your time, even your dreams. You think you're climbing the ladder, but it's really just a treadmill. And when I realized that, that's when the struggle turned into resentment. This ladder analogy seems to come up constantly in these topics because, as I've said, so many rungs have been removed from that ladder that you're climbing up the side of a pole, not a ladder. And when you get to a certain point while climbing the pole, you just slide back down because you're supposed to slide back down into the wage cage as quickly as you made it up past those rungs. That's what life feels like. You're not climbing a ladder, you just keep thinking you're going up, but you're actually sliding back down. Resentment for how they keep us chasing something we'll never reach. Resentment for how they call it business while people like me skip meals just to make it through the week. Resentment for how they dangle hope in front of you like a carrot, only to snatch it away. But here's the question I keep asking myself, and maybe it's the question you've been afraid to ask too. What would happen if we stopped believing in their lies? If we stopped running and started pushing back? You want the truth about corporate power? You'll find it in the stories like mine. I think it's time that the world start listening, that the world start paying attention to the resentment of the proletariat because it's there. That's why this story fascinated us. That's why they wanted to make certain that they caught this guy because they needed to make an example of him. That the corporation is the only winner in society, and any person that doesn't like corporate entities is the enemy of capitalism, it's the enemy of America. And by far and beyond, you're a commie if you don't like this system. Well, I don't like this system. I've never considered myself to be a commie or a capitalist. I don't consider myself to be anything. I'm just a regular person that wants to go to work, make enough money so I don't have to work, and then stop working. That's all I want out of life. That's what most people want out of life. We don't want to work. We hate working. We have a resentment towards work. We have a resentment towards the people that force us to work. No one wants to work anymore, and no one has ever wanted to work. And that's something that they just can't understand. How can the proletariat not want to work? Think about it. Food and shelter and a carrot dangling above our heads while simultaneously being told that we're lazy, entitled, that we want too much, we want too many benefits, that we want work life balance, that we want a 4-day work week. Can you imagine that? Actually having health care so if you got sick, they can't just tell you that they're not going to cover that and that's the end? That's really what it comes down to, is their resentment for the proletariat.